morning and Happy New Year to everybody. It is the 2nd of January, 2023. Still here in Arizona, still sitting in the lobby, so I've got my wonderful Christmas tree here, fireplace. It's all good. Wanted to shoot a video about retirement. And one of the challenges that I have with retirement, one is I'm never retiring. I will always be doing some kind of work in the businesses that I have. I like them. I like doing what I do. If I like doing what I do, I never really work a day in my life, do I? We're sitting here in Arizona and I'm technically working. I sold a house on this trip. And some life insurance got settled up this trip. So technically I'm working. I'm doing video, so technically I'm working as well too. But this particular video is directed towards a 25 or a 35-year-old who's saving for retirement. One of the benefits that we have in Canada is we have this wonderful thing called the segregated fund. I call it a seg fund. Fund, F-U-N-D. And the benefit is that there's what are called triggers or resets in a segregated fund. Americans don't have this wonderful feature. What a trigger or a reset does is if your account is up, say, 10% for the year, you can trigger a reset for your guarantees. So a segregated fund lasts 15 years. It's a contract with an insurance carrier that says, hey, I'm going to be putting money into you, or I'm going to keep my money with you, as much of my money as I can with you for 15 years. If I do that, then you give me some guarantees because I'm giving you my money for 15 years, which they're reinvesting back in and making some management fees from and things like that. So what happens then is these resets or triggers lock in your value. So let's say that you had, I don't know, $10,000 at the beginning of the year, and it's up 10%, which is $100. So you reset your $10,100. And as long as you keep your contract for the 15 years, then they guarantee this $10,100. No matter what the market does, they always guarantee this growth. So you're resetting or locking in your gain. And so think of it as acquiring a retirement. So you're putting money in and they're guaranteeing money and they're locking in money for your retirement. And if you're 25 years old, when you think about it, and you want to retire at 65, you've got 40 years that you may be working with this fund company, this insurance company in Canada. So they're more than happy to give you a 15-year contract, and then another 15-year contract, and then another 15-year contract, as long as you stick with them. And they have the same funds in their accounts as every other fund company does. So you can have growth, international, you can have all kinds of stuff in there. You can do whatever you want to do in there. It's not really that important to do any of that because you want steady, consistent growth over time. And the biggest key set is to try to be as aggressive, what I say here is live modestly now, so later you can live humbly. And I'm living humble right now. It's amazing to be able to help you to understand the concepts of money because I have this thing called wisdom now at 55 and I'm gaining more and more wisdom every day. And I'm sharing that with you on these videos as well too. But this is not for everyone. I'm going to be more aggressive in my early years to build up a bigger nest egg. And then you're going to see in my how I lay this all out in video, how I fund retirement and save for a house and do all of these other fun things as well too. Maybe children come into your lifetime. I don't have any children, which makes my humble living a little bit different as well too. And I also have to be careful because I don't have any children that as I age, my care will be more expensive as well too. And that's also one of the other reasons that I say that I'm never really retiring. So what I've done is I've simply taken and I've said, hey, I'm going to invest in seg funds. I'm going to invest in just a balanced growth seg fund, earning 6.5% per year historically. And I'm going to lock in because every so often this account, this fund will do better than that. And annually, I have the ability to be able to lock in. So whenever I have an annual 10% gain, I'm going to lock that in. And just lock it in automatically. Oh, I'm up 10%, lock it in. Right? Very simple thing. So I'm starting at age 25. I could be starting at 35, 45, whatever it is that I'm starting at here. In this particular example, I'm starting at age 25. I'm putting $500 a month in because I'm living modestly now. I'm not going out and buying a new Ferrari right now at 25. And my income's going to be going up as well too because I don't hit the top of my pay grade until I'm about 50, 55. It's roughly when the average person reaches the top of their pay grade. They're working the most overtime, whatever it is. They've been a teacher for X number of years, so they move through the pay scale. They're at the top of their game by the time they get to be 55. So I'm going to make this go up $100 a month per year. But then I'm going to vary it as well too. And you're going to see that as I come in here. So I'm going to start with $500 a month at age 25. And I'm going to earn 6% or 6.5%. In my case, I kept it simple. I just locked in that 10% gain. Okay? So these are the lock-in numbers here. So $6,000, I'm going to put that in a year in my 25th year, or year one. And the next year, I'm going to put in $7,200 because I'm going to put 500 plus 100, so 600. As my income goes up, because they give me a pay raise or I live as humbly as possible, find as many cost-cutting ways to be able to live as possible, to be able to build up this nest egg as fast as humanly possible. Because the faster I build this up, then the better it is for me later on. And you're going to see that here in this example. So here, 6,000, but I had a 10% gain, so I locked in my 6,600. But then I also put $7,200 into the account. So the next year I've got $15,180 locked in. The next year I've got $25,938 locked in. The next year I've got $39,088 locked in. The next year I've got $54,876 locked in. You can see how I've locked in my gain. And the insurance company is guaranteeing that as long as I stay with them, I don't cancel my contract with them because I can cancel any time. But if I don't cancel my contract, they'll guarantee that at 25, at age 40, they're guaranteeing that my account is at least $54,876. But then later this year, I put more money in. I put $12,000 in. And I'm locking that in as well too. And then I'm locking in and locking in. So by the time I'm 35, I've got $183,549 locked in. Pretty darn good. And then that just continues to keep growing. I don't have to put another dime in there if I don't want to, or if things change, things start raining on my parade, I can always go and stop funding my retirement here. I've got $183,000 that will grow and grow and grow. By the time I'm 65, assuming I want to retire at 65 or retire whenever, that money will continue to keep growing. But I've built up this nest egg as rapidly as humanly possible. Then I can start at age 35, I can start saving for a house if I want to. I can start doing whatever it is that I want to do. I can start living a little bit because I've got my retirement pretty much planned out by this point. Now, in this case, I continue to keep saving for retirement because I'm doing very well. I'm a skilled professional at age 35, and I can continue to keep saving. Notice how this number starts going down, though. I start saving less towards retirement because it's not as important that I save more for retirement. So as you can see, as I'm building up these funds, you can see that I'm saving less. But the funds are continuing to increase and my guarantees are continuing to increase. Then the other thing that I also did was I said, hey, in this year and in this year, I'm not going to earn any growth at all. So what happens if there was rain on my parade? Well, okay. How does that impact my savings rate? So here at 35, I only have 153,000. It's about $30,000 less. But does that impact my retirement account? It really doesn't, because by the time I get to be 55, I have 1.3 million versus at 55 here, I have 2 million. Does it really matter? No, because 2 million at 6% would be $120,000 a year, $10,000 a month. 1.3 or 1.4 million at 6% is still $70,000 a year in retirement funding at age 55. So it doesn't it doesn't really matter what happens as long as I start getting my fund built up as quickly as humanly possible. That's why it's important to live humbly or live modestly in the early ages. And save as much as you possibly can. That's what I did. I worked my butt off in the early years, and I save. Now, where I screwed up was I started trading. I ran into a professor at the University of Windsor who was all about helping people go to zero. And he did a really good job of that in the city of Windsor. There was a lot of people that went to zero, and I was one of those guys that almost went to zero. Saved myself, but almost went to zero. And I'm rebuilding that now. It's part of the other reason why I say I'll never retire. I'm just going to do things that I love to do. So in our family, we're going to be fine anyway from a retirement planning perspective 5 years, 6 years from now anyway, because there will be pensions coming in, old age pensions coming in, and the business is the business. The business is always going to make roughly about $200,000 per year. And I'm building it in a way that can do that without me necessarily having to be there, having other associates be able to do that job for me as well too. So have some different flexibilities there that other people don't, and I'm building on them. Also by doing these videos as well too. But acquiring a retirement, the faster you get started on acquiring a retirement, the better off you actually are. The harder you save in the early years, the better off you are. Because it then gives you some flexibilities to be able to cut some of the. I'm not going to save these 2 years. I'm going to use this $20,000 or this $30,000 to go buy a house in this year, and then I can scale back, or as my income continues to increase, that extra money that I'm creating in my income, I can pay my house off, so that by the time I get to retirement, my house is paid off and I have $1.3 million saved. So when you have these things called assets in retirement, it gives you flexibility. Oops, flex. To fund your retirement, because you'll have different pots. To be able to take out of in a tax efficient way. So if you are young, acquiring a retirement account, I want you to fund your TFSA first. Max fund your TFSA first. Then your RSP. If you have any extra, goes into your RSP. Then, and I'm not a huge fan of your RSP. I'm more of a fan of being debt-free as you head towards retirement. So I'm more of a fan of paying down your house, especially since interest rates are going up. I'm more of a fan of having cars paid off. I'm more of a fan of being debt-free. This, I think, should be number 2. This, I think, should be number 1, because this is your rainy day fund as well, too. 2 is being as debt-free as humanly possible, maybe only with good debt left, which is just a house, which you're paying it down. House debt is good debt. Bad debt is credit card debt and all that variable debt stuff. And then possibly fund your RSP. And there's a reason for that. RSPs get to be very expensive as you age. That's why the Canadian government set them up. They defer your income now, but later on they're going to get a whack of it from you. And it's hard for retirees to take the money out of their account in retirement when they see how much money the government's going to get from them. But the government always gets its day. It will always get its day. So, more of a fan of overfunding a TFSA or fully funding a TFSA, being debt-free, living as modestly now, so that later you can live humbly. And it's humble. There's something humble about giving the government $20,000 or $30,000 on the end of April. I write that check every year. It's a very humbling experience. It's like, wow, it was a really, really good year. I made enough money to have to give the government $20,000 or $30,000. To me, that's kind of successful as well too. And there's ways that I can shelter that tax too by incorporating my business if I wanted to, and I'll look at doing that here down the road. But so this gives you a good example of what we talk about as far as saving for retirement, why it's important to get out of the chute first, fast, and then if you need to scale it down, or if a cancer diagnosis comes in or whatever, you've got a fund built up for yourself that you can always go into too while you're alive. It's just going to defer out your retirement a little bit longer. You might be one of those people that doesn't want to retire. Well, then suddenly you don't need as much. You don't need to fund it by $500 a month, but maybe you fund it by $250 a month. Or maybe you only have $250 a month to be able to put into it. But that's okay, because we need you to get started as fast as humanly possible. That way, over time, that money can grow to be able to fund or acquire your retirement. You don't just magically step into retirement, you acquire it over time. The wealth that I have, I didn't just magically wake up one day and there it was. I acquired it over time. I lost some of it, and then I made it back faster. That was the only way that I could solve my problem with the professor at the University of Windsor, who just about ran me to zero, was the concept that I need to get to work. I need to help as many people as humanly possible, and I still do that every single day. And it starts paying better and better and better the longer you do it as well too. So that's part of the way that I look at, I don't ever want to retire. Maybe that changes when I get to 65 or 70. Maybe that changes. But that's okay, because I'm really kind of right around in here from a net wealth perspective as well too, for the two of us. We're just starting to see these big yearly increases now because we've acquired assets. I don't have very much money saved, I don't. But I have everything all paid off. So those are assets that I've acquired, which give me flexibility in my retirement too. And now I'm building up cash. Because early on, I had built this up really well. I was sitting about here when I met that professor. And I went down to 15. So I lost about $100,000 of my retirement accounts, technically, by meeting that professor at the University of Windsor. That was the damage that was done to me by that professor at the University of Windsor. There was a lot of people in the city of Windsor that were damaged by that professor at the University of Windsor. So, but for me now, it's fine because I'm living humbly and I've built back up my assets. But I don't have as much cash. I have more of my assets as a paid off house, and I'm putting money into my TFSA. And then eventually I'll look at maybe funding my RSP. But there's other tax efficient ways that I can do some different planning for me as well too. So I hope that helps you to be able to understand acquiring a retirement, how if you do want to retire, you got to make that decision early on, and you got to start living modestly so that you can fund your retirement. There's only you that funds your retirement. Nobody else does. You have to acquire a retirement. You have to buy it. And you can buy it gradually over time. The more aggressive you are at the beginning, the easier it is at the end. and the better your retirement is at the end as well too. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions about retirement planning, about seg funds, about locked-in guarantees, you can call me at any time, 519-995-6145 from Phoenix. I am going to go out and go back to enjoying my vacation. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.